So is this training focused on Medicare Advantage, or is it focused on other products?
So this training is specifically to do telesales for the WellCare product.
Okay.
It's very, very focused on it. As a matter of fact, we have a few agents that jump on that don't intend to do telesales that we kind of say, you don't need to be here for it if not, because we're going to teach the script today and what has to be said and how to use the Ascend application for telesales. It's a lot of information, so we break it up into 2 days because we tried to do it in 1 day and we just lost everybody by the time we hit the second.
Brain dead by the end of the day.
Yeah. You know, we're popping cough drops as we're doing it too. Once we hit the 3rd hour as well, so it works out better to kind of break it up. Although I think tomorrow's, oh no, it's at 3 o'clock tomorrow. I was going to say tomorrow's a morning one. It's going to be an early morning for you, but no, it's at 3 o'clock our time, so 12 o'clock your time. What's the weather like in Arizona?
It has turned gorgeous. It's been incredibly hot all summer. And right now we're getting highs in the 90s and lows into the 60s.
Wow. Wow, that's a swing. That's a swing.
Like my swimming pool was suddenly cold this weekend. It's been like bath water. It was like, why am I even getting in this pool? It's as warm as the air.
Right. Right. Great problem to have.
It is definitely a first world problem.
A first world problem. All right. Who came on this call and named themselves me? Oh, that was Rick. He just switched it back. I say let's get started, and if anybody else joins, that's fine. But
me came on as Chris Marchese came on as me. We're having a Wi-Fi problem here in our office.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
How are you? Good afternoon, I guess we should say, right?
Great. All right, let's get started and talk a little bit about what the purpose of today was, and you know, as I was just saying to Dave, the purpose of today is strictly a telesales training. Should probably give a little bit of background on how we got to this point of doing the telesales and doing this training, and this is probably our, I don't know, 6th or 7th training on this, and so you got to kind of bear with us as we're going through it as well, because new questions pop up all the time. But basically, we had a small call center here for WellCare where we were allowed to do some enrollments directly into the WellCare system. It is a very, very strict, compliant way of doing business, but they kind of gave us the go-ahead to be able to put people on as telesales agents with all the responsibility on us. So when I say all the responsibility, it doesn't matter where you're housed, whether it's compliance, from a compliance perspective, what you're saying via script, the fact that the call is being recorded, all those other things, it's all on us. So it started out very small, and then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we went to them and said, look, what we're going to be doing is now not going to be people working in their office. It's going to be people working from their homes. And by the way, we'd like to switch all of our field agents over to tele agents. And they said, okay, because their hands were a little bit tied due to COVID. And it started becoming successful for us. And with all the uncertainty of what's out there right now, and what's going to happen for open enrollment as far as people being able to actually see people in the field, and we know every state's a little different, we opted for the fact that we were going to be ready to rock and roll for anybody who needed to be in a telesales arena instead of in a field arena. So our whole setup and everything that we're going through now, we realize that some of you might even opt not to be telesales people, but today and tomorrow, the goal is to teach you everything that you have to know how to do. You could see the scripting, you could see it's a CMS approved script specifically for WellCare. It is not it's It's not a multi-carrier script. It's a script that CMS got approved, that WellCare got approved with CMS, filed with CMS, and we're ready to we're ready to roll with it. Mike, anything else on the intro on why we're here today? Okay. All right, let's go to the next slide then.
I want to give you a little bit of background right now, just to kind of show you who's who with Diversified. The way that we broke down this whole training session is that we're going to kind of talk about in sports terms, we have the league, the game, the coaches, and the players, and it basically just kind of works out just to give us some structure. The first is the league. We've pretty much explained to each of you on the call at this point that, as Diversified, we entered into Medicare Advantage 2003. We were very successful. Over the years, CMS kind of came in and made it pretty difficult to be able to continue in this business for an extended period of time. We backed away, but in about 4 years ago, two gentlemen, Mr. Brian Shaner and Mr. James McKenzie, came and met with us because their organization, Universal American, had just been purchased by WellCare. This was a pretty exciting opportunity. Them being purchased by WellCare provided them with the opportunity to be able to access leads to support us as brokers, and then also be able to work with a product in many, many states. And basically they were kind of giving us the insight on different states that were about to roll out with some great product. All of that kind of culminates in a perfect storm today. We still continue to receive those leads. In fact, there's over 212,000 coming our way October 1st, and we usually get 30 to 50,000 on a monthly basis. In addition to that, we have product, literally Centene, it's a Fortune 42 company. They are the 6th largest Medicare Advantage company in the country, and they have committed to becoming number 3. That coupled with the fact that Centene purchased WellCare, they also own Allwell, Health First, Ascension, and Fidelis. And when you take these 5 companies and you place them all around the country, there's 33 states that they're doing business in. And we've made the decision to work within 23 of them. In those 23 states, we're receiving those leads on a monthly basis. And the opportunity that they've placed before us in those states is second to none. So this perfect storm kind of places us today. Actually, I should bring in one important part. Being in New Jersey, COVID really hit us kind of first. In the first week of March, when we decided that we were going to close down our office, we realized, okay, well, how do we get our agents back to work? Because this thing is not going away for a little while. We had no idea that it would be this long, frankly. But we realized that we needed to do something. So we went to Centene and said, guys, please, we've built out a call center. We've been approved. You've given us all the permissions that we need. We can place phones in people's homes and now be able to sell from their house. If we figure out how to do this compliantly and we work this through correctly, would you give us permission? And after a little while, they finally said, yes, you got it. And I guess that's really where the perfect storm has hit. You've got great product. You have an overabundance of leads, and you have a medium by which you can get to people and be able to sell that product without having to kind of be harmed by the COVID situation. In fact, be able to do better with it. If an area isn't working, we push our focus to a different area. So that's the league. With regard to the game, obviously it's Medicare Advantage by phone, and today we're specifically talking about Centene and how we sell Centene over the phone. You're going to find that what we do is we take insurance agents or seasoned agents who have been effective and know how to sell in the field, including ourselves, and we're taking that experience and bringing it to the phone, as opposed to kind of your order taker or your baseline kind of person who's just sitting there taking inbound calls and hoping that they're going to be able to enroll somebody. We're going to teach some of our sales ability in this presentation to help make sure that we don't lose the fact that we are still making a sale and that this is not just an order taking business. So let's meet some of the coaches. you know, the four Rose Boys, if you will, I'm sure each of you have had the opportunity so far to encounter in some capacity over the last week. We've been been on many different calls. We have Mike Sr., who's our founder and CEO. You can find him every Tuesday and Thursday night on our conference calls. They're at 6:30. He's always sharing little nuggets of wisdom, as well as asking the right questions to kind of give you pause and make you consider a different vantage point. We have Anthony, who's involved with pretty much all the different facets of our organization, continues to work with the different carriers and specifically Centene and the opportunities that we have been afforded. He continues to foster. He also is responsible for making sure that every single one of your policies gets paid, not only today, but for years to come. We have Dan, who's responsible for our operations. He's real involved with the inside sales and being able to sell over the phone. And he's also responsible for getting you paid, getting those checks out. And then myself, I'm usually involved in the marketing side of things with regard to recruiting and the leads. So that's kind of how the Rose Boys play out. And then you have 3 individuals who have over 60 years of experience here at Diversified, represent over 60 years of experience. Mr. Jeff Collins, our VP of Sales and Marketing. Jeff can also help you with Medicare Supplement. If you have questions with somebody, you're not quite sure how to take it, he's going to be the person that you're going to be able to go to. He'll also be somebody that you'll be very accountable to with regard to your appointments. If we're booking appointments for you, we want to make sure that, you know, you're getting dispositions back on it for us, or following through with any of those appointments, giving us schedules. Jeff is going to be involved in that section, and we'll probably be reaching out just to kind of help in a very sales-oriented capacity. We have Mr. Akram Jacob, who's our VP of Growth and Development. The beautiful thing about Akram and having him on our team is that he's actually in sales right now, currently. We all have background in sales, but he's actually still doing it. So you'll see him making dials and kind of right alongside you when you're in the system, closing people as well. And that helps us be able to make sure that we're making decisions based on the salespeople. Before we make any final decisions or any drastic decisions for our agency, we're absolutely consulting Akram to make sure that, you know, we're not losing sight of what matters most, and that's the relationships we have with our agents. We have Miss Nicole Moore. She's our kind of coach, which is going to really validate and make sure that you are guaranteed success in this business. Nicole is able to listen in on all the different calls, be able to hear what's happening, make sure that she can help you. She's not really looking there to be a referee as much as she's looking to be able to help improve your game. So you'll hear, you can use her as much as you like in terms of if you're struggling in a certain area, you need some questions, you need some answers in certain areas, Nicole's going to be right there for you to kind of step right up. Oftentimes she'll be sitting in the background listening to a call, and you can text her and say, hey, Nicole, what do I do now? Or can you listen into this call because I'm really struggling? And she'll be able to either whisper into your ear where the client won't hear you, or she can text you an answer to those questions. Finally, the rest of our team you probably have met already. We have Jeanette Stovekin. She's responsible for all new business and conservation. She processes and submits all Medicare business. She works with our agents very closely to make sure that all the apps that they do right have been submitted and they're able to be submitted compliantly. We have Dominika Furchak, who's our office manager, but she's also been working with each of you to get your licensing and contracting done with certification for the different carriers. And finally, we have Gabby Duranko, who's our social media director. She's also responsible for kind of onboarding all of our different agents and working with them. You'll find her involved with likely your phone system as we kind of progress in getting that phone in your house. So that's our team. If you go to thediv.com/telesales, www.thediv.com/telesales, I'll place it in the chat. You'll be able to see kind of some steps. Here we go. And yes, you can use it for all states. It was just asked in the chat. So yes, you can, I'm sorry. I'm just putting the website in here. I didn't need to, there we go. Okay, so you can go to the website. It's going to kind of lay out for you the different steps that are necessary in order to be able to be transitioned into the phone. But we also have this sheet, which is going to be downloadable from that website and will allow you to be able to contact all of us. It has all of our information. Kind of sort of looks like this. It also has some of the district sales managers with Centene that we work with who can help improve. Sometimes you can go to a DSM and ask them some questions about how do I sell this product, or where do I go with this product, or how do I beat this other competition in this area. The DSMs are strong partners with us. We've fostered these relationships to make sure that they don't just kind of be, but they really are strong. And you can benefit from that because of what we've done to try to improve those opportunities. So the question that everybody should really be asking themselves at this point is, am I ready to work? It's one thing to get certified and contracted with WellCare. That's frankly the easy part. You know, you're just kind of getting an app. You received your email, you filled out the email, and you sent it back. The next step is that you get your AHIP, which would be obviously one of the more difficult sections in this process, but I'm hoping that everybody on the call has already certified with AHIP. If you haven't, the div.com/certs, CERTS, I'll place that in the chat as well, is where you do that. Hopefully everybody on the call has done that spot and gotten their AHIP done. But that's the website that's going to get you your AHIP certification. It's also going to get you contracting and the answers that you need for the Centene opportunity. It does say WellCare, but remember, when you contract with Centene, you're contracting with 5 different carriers, and each state is going to have different carriers that they're either downplaying or upplaying as we move forward. The ultimate goal in the next year is that they are going to brand themselves into one company. But in the meantime, they're using the benefits of each carrier and the name brand that they have there to strengthen the opportunity this year. After you have your AHIP certification, you're going to complete your, it says WellCare University, it's ACT, which is your Centene training. That's the next step. It's actually pretty simple compared to previous years. And you have multiple attempts, which is a nice little feature that they've provided. And then finally, you'll receive your ready to sell with Centene. It's an email that you'll receive once all of that is completed. And you could absolutely work with Dominica and Jeanette to kind of complete these areas. The final step is that we need to move you then from the field over to the telesales side. It's a little bit of a process that occurs interiorly. And if everything else is done, you've done your AHIP, you've done your certification, then the only thing that really lies ahead of you now is a step inside of us, inside the system, that we're going to switch you over from field to the phone. And definitely speak with Dominica to make sure that that's done. Next step, we need to get a phone in your house. As I've likely said to each of you at this point, you know, you're able to sell within our system because of the phone that you're being able to sell on. You cannot sell on your phone and be able to be part of the telesales system. It's the difference, it's the change that's made so that it makes you unique in your position. Any agent can sit there and try to sell the Centene product. When they do so, they're going to be doing so with like a DocuSign type feature through the Ascend app, where they're sending a link via text or email. And the person has to then, our seniors, who obviously are not very advanced with technology generally, are going to have to figure out how to sign that application when they receive it. And a lot of compliance nightmares can then be generated. What we are doing is we're calling as though we are Centene. And by doing that, we're putting data into the system directly as though we are Centene. By doing that, a phone call must be recorded on the outbound and on the inbound, but you are protected. You know, this is the analogy we're using is a game, right? So I think it's important that we remember at this point that the information we're going to share with you is not intended to scare you, though it is intended to make sure that you know the rules. And when you were in the field, for example, if someone was on the field, did well in the field, you kind of were able to say anything, right? And you weren't being recorded. And that was maybe some freedom for you because you were able to kind of skirt around or maybe leave out something. We obviously didn't encourage that, but that might have happened. But the problem is, on the other side of the coin is that the client is able to say whatever they want either, as well. And more often than not, agents who are well-intended, over the last 15, 20 years, we've seen it time and time again, where an agent who is well-intended asks the right questions, asks things like, what doctor do you go to and what drugs are you on? And then the agent tells the person that they are not in network, that they do not, that doctor's not in there, but if they switch their plan, they're going to be able to receive all the benefits that do come from this plan. And the person then agrees to leave their doctor and find a new doctor. Unfortunately, historically in this business, in that type of scenario, once when the person remembers that they did that, or maybe they just don't like the plan, they've been able to kind of live off the fact that, okay, well, you know what, the agent didn't do what he was supposed to do, didn't tell me that I was supposed to move doctors, and now we have a compliance nightmare. We have rebuttals that we have to create, we have to fight against it, and frankly, some great agents have been harmed by it. So this circumstance that we're going to talk about with the phone is not something that should scare anybody. I had multiple conversations with agents after last week's training, and they walked away and they quite weren't sure what to do with themselves because they felt scared. Picture it like a game. When you play in the basketball in the driveway, you're playing basketball in the driveway, right? And there's no ref there checking on you, no ref making sure that each foul occurred or was called. But the athletic ability that you present in the driveway is still there. When you go to the game, the ref is there. He's going to call every single shot. He's going to call every foul. Everything's going to be called on you. But your athletic ability is still there. And that's the same thing as it goes here. Just because you're being recorded doesn't mean you're less of a salesperson. Just because you're being recorded doesn't mean you have to clam up. You have a script. The script works. And frankly, the script works with individuals who are far less experienced than each person on this call in sales. So by being able to see them be successful, the average call center agent that we have that's an employee type person is selling over 1.5 apps a day. So when you take the fact that they don't have this experience and they're successful, imagine what you can do with your experienced salesperson, history of success in sales, and now bring that into the field with what you're doing. And you have the coach or the referee looking on and making sure that everything that you say is protected so that you don't have to worry about those compliance issues. Sorry for the soapbox, but I think it's important that we begin there. And I would discuss now with our phone. We are in the process of changing our phone. We are working on different options, and we will give you details as it comes down to it over the next week and a half. But it's suffice it to say that you probably won't have to deal with one of these phones any longer in your home. You'll likely have a headset which would plug directly into a USB portion of your computer. You will need to have your computer, you'll need internet, and then you'll just log in to a CRM type fashion site and be able to click to dial. We're working on that, and the details will follow. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time with regard to how we work our system currently, because most likely none of you will be on it. Anthony.
Okay. So the one thing that we like to look at as far as all the steps of the process that happen with telesales is what we're calling our 10 commandments of MA telesales. And we like to lay it out so that you understand exactly what the whole process is going to be like. And at the end of every call, whether you got a sale or didn't get a sale, it's fairly relevant actually. You should step back, you should look at these 10 steps and say, what did I do good? What did I miss? Where can I use some work? If you didn't get the sale, maybe I didn't get the sale because I didn't spend enough time on step number 4, whatever it might be. It's a way for you to kind of do a checkup on yourself. So I'm not going to go into depth yet. I will in a minute, but let me just kind of run down what these 10 steps are. First, the introduction. A huge majority of the leads that you guys are going to be working are WellCare's Part D only members. So let me explain what that is and how we got to this point of why we're getting so many of these things. So WellCare has just a Part D prescription plan as well as their Medicare Advantage plans. They have it in just about every state in the country. It's been a very, very strong Part D plan, and they've come in below benchmark with CMS. So because of it, CMS awards them members every year. They're called auto assignees. So let's say you have someone who's either a low income subsidy or is a dual eligible. Those people have to have a Part D plan. CMS goes in and takes all these members and breaks them up amongst the insurance companies and just auto assigns them. Those who have a better plan and have the capability of being able to handle more members get more members. WellCare has been assigned millions of Part D only members. They've come to us and said, look, this is a cross-sell opportunity. We need to call these Part D only members because most of them are either on Part D and just strictly Medicare, or they're on Part D, Medicare, and Medicaid. So we call them, and we're allowed to call them saying we're calling on behalf of WellCare, your current Part D prescription provider, which is huge, huge credibility. And then we say to them, Mrs. Jones, WellCare asked me to reach out to you today because we have found that many of the Part D only members are not taking advantage of all the benefits they may be currently entitled to. And that's how we get their attention. It makes it so it's a warm phone call. You're not a telemarketer. You're not someone calling from out of the blue. You are their Part D prescription provider. And you're calling to check in on them, and you're calling to find out if they're taking advantage of all the benefits. And when you find that they're not taking advantage of all the benefits, because you know this because they're in a Part D only plan, then you're able to go into a Medicare Advantage presentation. Credibility questions. We want to make sure that we're building our credibility more by confirming their address and confirming things like that. And when we say that, we say, you know, I'm looking at my screen right here and it shows your address as such and such. Is this still correct? We then start going into our fact-finding questions. We need to find out where this person stands. We need to find out what do they currently have? How often do they go to the doctor? How important is their doctor to them that they currently have? What would be nice in a plan for them? You know, yeah, I love, everything is great what I have right now. It just stinks how much it costs me every time I go to the dentist. Okay, you just found a hot button. So again, asking the right questions are the thing that is going to get you to the point of being able to tailor that presentation. When you listen to people, they're going to tell you exactly how to sell them, but you got to ask the questions in order to get there. We're then going to go to the point of looking up their prescriptions and looking up their doctors. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, if they're on a WellCare prescription drug plan right now, more than likely their prescriptions are going to be covered because it's the same company. Yes, more than likely that's the case. But from a compliance perspective, you still have to do it, number one. And number two, it's not always the case. It could be that you're now putting them in an all-well plan instead of a WellCare plan. Or you're putting them in a health net plan or something like that. So you gotta continue to look up the prescriptions. One of the things I want to back up just a little bit, all of these leads and all these Part D member onlys that they have, WellCare has not had product in, I think it was 19 states they were in prior to this merger with Centene. So they had an unbelievable amount of Part D only members, but they never had a product that they can cross-sell to. Because of this merger, they have discovered that they have 2.2 million Part D members that they can now cross-sell to, that they didn't have before. It's a huge opportunity, huge. So step 4, you've looked up the prescriptions, you've looked up the doctors, you want to make sure that all is good there, and then you're going to tease them a little bit. You found out what their hot buttons are, you found out what they like, you found out what would be the most ideal thing for them, whether it's over-the-counter stuff, whether it's glasses, whatever it might be. And you're going to tease them a little bit with that. Mrs. Jones, it looks like there's a bunch of plans available in Essex County area that could actually work well for you. The thing is, I'm not sure if you qualify for it. I hope that we can get you into this plan, but I need to make sure that we can. Now, this could be a little bit different during open enrollment as opposed to outside of open enrollment. I want to just clarify that with the type of members we're talking about, ideally speaking, we are trying to focus in to be able to work 12 months a year. So during AEP, you're going to have dual eligibles, you're going to have LIS, and then you're going to have people that just straight out have a Part D only plan. Outside of open enrollment, we try to focus in on those people that have that special election period. So we need to see if they qualify. We need to call the special populations line over at WellCare to find out if they qualify. Now, up until a few weeks ago, it was a phone call. We had to put the person on hold. We call in, we give their information. We check back with the person to let them know, hey, they found you in the system. We're just trying to find out if you qualify now. And when you go back, it takes about 5 to 7 minutes for that to all happen. Over the last 4 weeks, we started using this new Ascend app, which we're able to actually put the information right into the app to find out their eligibility. It goes out to the state-based systems and tells us, yes, this person is fully dual eligible, or this person is, low income subsidy at 50%, or whatever it might be. But we have multiple tools. So we're going to teach you how to use the app first. And if you can't get your results from the app, then you would go over to the to calling the SPOP line. But again, you want that person waiting, with bated breath saying, I really hope I qualify because it sounds like there's some good things that I could possibly get. Once you are done doing that qualifications, in a little while, we're going to go to Nicole Moore, who has the most experience of everybody on this call as far as selling over the phone, selling this product over the phone. But if you do everything right up to step number 7, if they qualify after you've called SPOP, you should have a sale. Now it's just a matter of you not blowing it. But the percentage of people that you end up closing after this point and finding your eligibility is extremely, extremely high. So you've now come back to the phone and you've said, Mrs. Jones, I have fantastic news for you. It looks like you qualify. And then you go into which plan it is that you want to present to this person. You have to make a full plan presentation. Again, this is a script that you have to follow. Let me back up. There's 2 scripts. There's a sales script and there's an enrollment script. The sales script, you need to follow every step of the sales script. There's certain things that you must say when doing the sales script. But you can still be a salesperson. Like Michael said earlier, you're not an order taker here. So this is not going to be where you're just reading off of a script and people are going to say, I want to enroll. You're still a salesperson. So you have to make sure you follow the steps. And there's certain guidelines that you have to make sure you follow. When we talk about the full plan presentation, you are going to follow what it tells you you have to say, but it doesn't give you words. It's going to tell you in the script. Make sure you go over the co-pays, the hospital co-pays, the maximum out of pockets, so on and so forth. Basically, guys, you're opening up the summary of benefit and going through the summary of benefits. Once you're done doing all of that, you're going to say, Mrs. Jones, do you have any questions? Time for us to enroll you. Now, CMS requires, any insurance company, doesn't matter which company, CMS requires that an enrollment is only done on an inbound phone call. You cannot do an enrollment on an outbound call, period. It is absolutely illegal outside of compliance. So you will then say, now, Mrs. Jones, if we're ready for the enrollment, CMS requires that all Medicare Advantage enrollments be done on an inbound call, and I obviously called you today. So what I need you to do is I need you to give me a call back, and I'm going to take the enrollment for you. And this is the number to call me back at. Now, when we first heard about this, we were scared to death that we were going to have wasted a bunch of time with a person not calling us back. And we were told, don't worry about it, doesn't happen. People call you back. And we were pleasantly surprised to learn that almost 100% of the time they call you back. So if you have this fear of, oh no, they're gonna have to call me back, I'm gonna lose so much, it's not gonna happen. They're gonna call you back. As long as you do everything the right way up to this point. We are gonna set it up so that they call back into the main number, whether it's Jeanette, Gabby, Dominica, whoever answers the phone, and we'll transfer that person directly to you. Or they'll have your extension. So if we're after hours or the weekend or whatever it might be, then they could just plug your extension in and it comes right back to you and you're ready to roll. You are then going to explain to them what's going to happen. You're going to explain to them, we're big believers in tell them what you're going to do it, and then tell them what you just did. So you're going to tell them, Mrs. Jones, we're going to go through some questions. Some of the information I've already gone over with you, but for the purposes of the recording and the enrollment, I need to ask you some of these questions again. And then you go right into the full compliance script, of which you basically are reading word for word. This part is very, very important. You can't skip sections. You have to read disclaimers to them. You have to do what you have to do there. As you are doing this, you are inputting all of their information directly into the WellCare system. Their application is real time. It's going live to CMS as you input it in. So you get a confirmation number at the end of it. You give them that confirmation number and you are done. And that is the enrollment. We're going to go to the script in a second. Now, before we go into the script, I'm going to warn you that you might get scared when you see it. You're going to see it's 30 pages long and say, what the heck am I getting myself into? It's not really that long. There's a lot of mapping in it. So it says, if the person says this, then go to section here. If the person says this, go to this section. You're going to find pages and pages of disclaimers that you never have to read unless you were doing a Part D only enrollment, of which nobody on this call is looking to do Part D enrollments only. But we're gonna kind of walk through that. Before I take us into the script, does anybody have any questions on what these steps are yet? And don't be shy. Okay, good. Mike had put that in the chat. He had put that link for the div.com/telesales. If everybody would go to the div.com/telesales, you're going to see the link that I want you to open up, which is the Outbound Script. You're going to scroll down a little bit to important resources, and then you will see Outbound Script. If you could just click on that, it's going to help. Perfect, Mike, thanks. Right here. Everyone have that open? Yes? We can talk. Don't be afraid. Nobody's going to bite.
I got mine up.
Thanks, DJ. All right. I'm going to assume everybody has it open.
No, I'm a little technically challenged, Anthony. I'm still looking for it. I've got the div open.
The div.com/telesales.
Yeah, that I got.
Okay. So
agent portal, agent login. Oh, okay, hold on.
Scroll down just a little. Look where Mike is going on the screen right now, Rick.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
You'll see Outbound Script there where he's.
Outbound Script. Yeah, I got it. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Got it. You got it.
Okay.
Okay. Rick, just go ahead and mute yourself, bud. Thanks. All right. So here's our starting point. This is where our Mike. You could go back to the presentation if you want to. This is where our introduction is. You'll see that we put, the section on the script that coincides with the different steps that I was referring to earlier.
And I'm sorry, I think it might be a little easier. I sent you the presentation in your email. If you just pop it up and hit share screen, this way you can be responsible for it and move through on your pace instead of asking me to switch each time. It'd be a little easier.
Kind of like you switching.
That's why I'm asking.
So now Rick just talked about being technologically challenged. Now we're going to see how I do.
You opened up your PowerPoint, right?
I got it. So now it's don't worry. Now we're going to share screen number.
And then hit share screen right at the bottom of Zoom. There you go.
I got you. Don't worry. I got you. We good?
You got the PDF open. Did you want to use the PowerPoint?
I have the PowerPoint on my screen.
We're seeing your PDF right now. Click share screen, then hit cancel or stop share screen, and then go back in, and it's going to give you an option to go to the specific one.
This is why I don't do this.
Is that?
I said this is why I don't do this. Bear with me, guys.
Stop share. Share screen. No, it's going to ask you. Oh. All right. And then just go back to Zoom. Now we hit share screen. And right there. And then share. And now you can just go down on slideshow and then from concept.
Okay, guys. Sorry about that. Here's where we're starting out. Hello, Mrs. Jones. May I please speak, or may I speak with Mrs. Jones? This is Anthony Rose. I'm calling you on behalf of WellCare. We are your Part D prescription provider. How are you today? The reason for my call today, Mrs. Jones, is twofold. Number one, WellCare has asked me to reach out to some members in the whatever county area to see if we can help them make sure they're receiving all the benefits they may be entitled to with their WellCare plan. We found many Part D only members may not be taking advantage of all benefits WellCare has to offer. So I'm calling you with some good news. That's a nice change, isn't it? At this point, because of the current climate, it's okay for you to then go into, also, Mrs. Jones, I wanted to call you to find out just how are you doing? How are you doing with this whole COVID situation? Everything good? Everybody healthy? Have a conversation about the current climate. When you do that, you're going to find that people start to open up and you're able to start making a friend right from the beginning. Most people don't blow you off when you start talking about the whole COVID situation. From there, you go into, many Part D members are not taking advantage of benefits WellCare has to offer. So I'm calling you with some good news. It's a nice change, isn't it? Now, is your address still? Confirm that. It helps build that credibility. Go into conversation if you want about how long they've lived in that area. I used to be there. I'm very familiar with that area, whatever it might be. All right, great. Now, Mrs. Jones, some of the enhancement benefits I was referring to before at no cost to you at all are things like free over-the-counter items, hearing, dental, even vision benefits. WellCare also has an individualized care plan that many members find helpful. This is our still part of our introduction. And now we're going to go into more credibility questions. Now, Ms. Jones, I need to ask you a few questions just to determine your eligibility. You're not going to have to provide any health-related information unless it's used to determine your eligibility to enroll. Now, here's one of the things, guys, that is required to be said. All of our calls are recorded and monitored for quality assurance. May I have your permission to record and monitor this call? And this is what I was talking about with the mapping before. If they say no, then you have to go to refuse recording step H4. If they say yes, you go to step C1. This is your somewhat of a version of a scope of appointment here, okay? We will be discussing some Medicare Advantage and prescription plan options for you. Now, we're going to be discussing this for you, or is there someone else in your house on Medicare that you wanted to discuss this for? That's where you start, again, learning a little bit about what's happening there. If we get disconnected, may I have your permission to call you back? Is this the best number to reach you at? And do you currently have power of attorney or legal guardianship to make any decisions? If you have someone that is speaking for their mom, for argument's sakes, you have to go into it. You must have power of attorney or legal guardianship to enroll a beneficiary into a plan. Now, what I can do is I can give you some general information about the plan, but I can't discuss the personal health information. Would you like me to continue? Now, if the person has power of attorney, then you don't have to go there. It's if they don't have power of attorney. Now, may I please have your zip code and county in order to pull up the Medicare plans available? It is important that you ask them the county. I personally live in a zip code that's in 2 different counties. So there's lots of zip codes like that throughout the country. And there's a lot of times where you have a zip code where a plan's not available in one county, but it is available in the other county, even though it's the same zip code. So you got to make sure that you ask them what county that they are in. And then you go into, I see that well care. Now, if it's not well care and it's all well, then you say all well or HealthNet or whatever company it might be, Ascension Complete. I see that well care has Medicare Advantage plans that offer medical benefits that may include prescription drug coverage. Before I get into the benefit details, let me determine your eligibility. Now you're going into, we're still on step 3, guys, of doing our fact-finding questions. Do you have Medicare Part A, B, or both? If they say no, that's when you go to step D3. If they say yes, you continue down to step D4. Have you been diagnosed with ESRD or have you been on kidney dialysis within the last 2 years? If no, continue to step D5. Now, the ESRD question is going away starting October 1st. Well, October 15th enrollments for January 1st. ESRD is no longer going to be a disqualifying factor for Medicare Advantage plans. So we anticipate that we are going to be getting an updated script. Again, it had to be approved by CMS, so that's why we don't have it yet. But an updated script in the next 2 weeks, which will be for 2021 benefits. Now, you don't have to ask if they currently have a prescription drug plan because you know this already. Now, Mrs. Jones, I know you have a Part D plan already. Now, do you have any Medicaid or extra help? Now, this is where, again, the fact-finding questions that will help you know where you steer. Nicole, are you there?
I am.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. Nicole Moore here. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day.
Man, Nicole, I've spoken to you on Mondays before, and you must have had the most incredible weekend in the world. And you're still glowing from it.
It was nothing to write home about, but I'm here today and I'm feeling grateful for that.
Awesome. Nick, you have a way of going into finding out what people have by simply asking questions about what they pay when they go to the drugstore. Can you kind of give your smooth way of going into these questions of fact-finding now?
Sure. I usually just ask, I usually just ask, when you go to the doctor, you pay nothing to see them, right? If they say no, of course, great. That's how it should be. When you go to the pharmacy, you either pay nothing at all or between like $1 and change and $3, correct? And then I go into, are you using any other insurance company besides your Medicare and Medicaid when you go to see the doctor? And that's where you find out if they have VA benefits, TRICARE, benefits from a previous employer, things like that.
Okay. So you're basically taking D6, D7, D8, D9, and you've combined them all into a conversation.
Correct.
So that's where your sales ability, guys, comes into play. You're all successful salespeople because you've asked questions and you've turned it into a conversation. The most successful salespeople are. That's what you need to do here. Ask them, when you ask them, are you paying nothing at all or $3? It kind of tells you what they have. If someone says to you flat out, I pay nothing for everything that I do when I go to the drugstore. At that point, Nick, I'm assuming you say, so you have Medicaid, Mrs. Jones?
Yes, Medicaid or some form of low-income subsidy through Social Security, extra help. That's going to help with those prescription copays.
Okay. All right. And now you're going into section D10. Again, we're still at the fact-finding questions, where we explain to people we're currently outside the annual enrollment period, which runs from October 15th. You need to have a special election period in order to qualify. Now, you do not, for this part of the script, you do not need to ask all these questions in section D10. Because if you heard that they have Medicaid, you can say flat out, now, Mrs. Jones, you have both Medicare and Medicaid, therefore you have a special election period. Now, if we are in the open enrollment period, you don't have to go here. You need to know if they're on Medicaid or not, or LIS, because you need to know what plan to put them in, but you don't have to go into these questions of, since we are currently outside the open enrollment period. You could go, if you look on D9 right here, it says, if AEP or OEP, go to step E1. And this is what I mean by there's a lot in the script that you're not going to always use. And now we continue our conversation. We're going to do a needs analysis here. This is where we're going to find out, if you haven't found out already, what they have, what they like about it, what would they like to change, what's important to them. Do they wear eyeglasses? Do they pay for those glasses out of their pocket? What would be nice to them in a plan? Do they pay for some over-the-counter items right now out of their pocket? Boy, you must spend a lot of money per month for those type of things. Do they have some sort of chronic meal delivery service right now? Those type of questions is where you do your needs analysis. No different than when you were in the field. This is just where you're really, truly doing your fact finding. And now we're going to get to that part where we need to check on their doctors. Now we need to say, how often do you go to the doctors, Mrs. Jones? I go once a year. Okay, is there a specific doctor that you go to, or do you just go to a clinic of some sort? There's a lot of people on Medicaid that don't care who they see, they just go to a clinic. And you will hear that. You guys know from the field experience that there's a lot of people that they have a doctor, but the loyalty to their doctor is none. They don't care. They care about the almighty buck and how much is it going to cost them, and when can they get in to see them. That's what they care about. And some are going to say, I've been seeing my doctor for the last 35 years, and that's a doctor that I will never stop seeing. That's fine. You just need to know these type of things. You need to take their temperature to know where they're at. And then you're going to look up the doctor. We're going to go through, not today, this will be for tomorrow's training. We're going to go through the whole doctor lookup and how we look up the drugs and so on and so forth. But this is the part where we need to look up if the doctor is participating or not. This is the part where we need to find out about the drugs. That's section E3. We're going to do all of those things here so we could really know what we have and what we're dealing with. Now, very important. If you find that a doctor is not a part of the WellCare network, however, in the areas that you are looking in, there is a PPO plan, because there's a lot of PPO plans this year. You may not want to necessarily say, oh, your doctor's not a part of the network. because it may be the same copay if the doctor's out of network. It depends on the plan, and it depends on the area that you're working in. If you find that it's an HMO that you're looking at, then, and the doctor's not a part of the network, then you have to go there as part of, okay, it looks like Dr. Smith is actually not participating as part of the WellCare network. Is this a doctor that you definitely want to keep if we're able to get you a bunch of additional benefits? So that's where you have to, again, no different than something you'd be doing in the field. Now, before we get into the calling of SPOP or checking on their eligibility, we now want to tease them a little bit. At this point, you're going to have an idea of which plan you would like to look at for them. So because you're going to have an idea of which plan you want to look at, you want to pull out those hot buttons. Again, whether it's the dental side, whether it's the over-the-counter, whether it's this flexible spending card that they're going to get, whatever it might be for that plan, you want to say, Mrs. Jones, it looks like there may be a plan here that may be a good fit for you. We can probably, and again, this is only if we can get you qualified, and I'm going to go there in a second, but we could probably get you $2,000 in dental benefits. We could probably even get you $100 a month that'll help pay for your Advil and your diapers. Whatever it might be. Again, those hot buttons, which you'll see within those summary of benefits. You want to make it so they start salivating and saying, God, I hope I qualify for this plan. And just when you've gotten them all excited, you're going to pull the rug out from underneath their feet and you're going to take it away from them. But I'm not sure if you qualify for the plan. So what I'm going to do right now, Mrs. Jones, is I am going to check to see if you qualify for, if it's a special needs plan or LIS plan or whatever it is. What I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to verify your Medicaid or low-income subsidy level with WellCare. Now, Nick, I always turn it back over to you right here because you have a very nonchalant way of getting a person's information in order to be able to go check their eligibility. So let me turn it over to you. How are you asking the question before you're going into the SPOP line?
So first and foremost, you do not want to make a big deal over asking for that information. You want to be confident in asking for that information. You don't want to seem hesitant or just, again, make it a big deal. So you're going to just casually ask for their information. Okay, so the next step here, I'm going to call in, I'm going to check your level of eligibility. What you're going to do for me, you're going to go and grab your Medicare card, your red, white, and blue card. And they'll say, yes. Okay, go grab your card. What I need on that card is your Medicare ID. It's a series of letters and numbers. Okay, I need you to read that off to me. And once again, could you confirm your date of birth? And I always say it like that because I want to give them the impression that I already have that information on my screen going back to the beginning. So can you confirm your date of birth even though it's not there? And I usually just get a smooth response with the Medicare ID and also the date of birth in order to call SPOP.
And then what do you do?
So then I get on, I call SPOP, I let them know first and foremost, I just let them know what I'm doing, okay? Okay, great. I'm going to get on the line. I'm going to check your level of eligibility. I'm going to place you on a brief hold. It's going to take about 2 to 5 minutes here. I'll check back in with you if it takes a little longer than that, okay? And they're willing to, hold. I don't really ask them, do you want to hold or do you want me to call you back? It's not an option. They're already there. You have their attention. They have the time at this point. They clearly have the time. If they didn't, they would say that. So you just assume they have the time to just be on hold, check their level of eligibility. Once I get the level of LIS, okay, and a confirmation of their Part A and B, because SPOP puts you on hold to check their Medicaid, and if they actually have Medicaid, I usually check back in with them at that time. And
We lost you, Nick. We lost Nick.
Oh dear. Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
There you are. We got you back.
Okay. So, I usually just check back in with them. I don't know where I left off. I usually check back in with them when SPOP puts me on hold after giving me the level of LIS and the Part A and B effective dates. So when SPOP puts me on hold, I go back to the client and say, Mrs. Jones, okay, great. You have Medicare Parts A and B. Your effective date was January 1st of 1990, and you have a low income subsidy at a level 1 at 100%. Right now, they're checking on your Medicaid. I just wanted to check back in with you just to let you know what's happening, and I'll be back on the line. Okay, and then I get the Medicaid eligibility and I come back, Mrs. Jones, I have some great news for you. The benefits that we were talking about, you actually qualify for those benefits. So once they hear that they qualify, they're on go. They're happy. They're ready to enroll.
And from a percentage wise, and I know it's just throwing a dart at it, but what percentage of people, if you've gotten them through SPOP and they qualify, would you say you would enroll?
Oh, I pretty much close everyone that, unless it's not a good time to do an enrollment, which is slim to none. But I've been able to enroll everyone that I've been able to qualify for the benefits after SPOP call.
Okay.
I don't.
So
I believe. Go
so
ahead.
That flat out says that. Keep in mind, guys, she hasn't even gone through the full plan presentation yet. She hasn't even gotten to the part of talking about what the co-pays are going to be or any. She hasn't even gotten there yet. But she's wet their palate so much and then taken it away so much that now it's like, I need this. I need to get into this plan. And it's almost like the summary of benefit parts is just a, oh yeah, we have to go over that too. Do you agree with that, Nick?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, let's, anybody have any questions? And remember, you're calling SPOP, but with the new Ascend app, you may not even have to call them. It may be flat out that you're just looking up their information within the app, and more agents are starting to do that. And so far, we've had very good success with it. Very high percentage of success, as a matter of fact. The other thing is, remember that if you are not talking to someone that's going to be in any sort of low income subsidy plan, and it is just a regular person looking to get into an MA plan, then these steps of qualifying don't happen. You don't need to do that at all. It's just skipping through it and rolling to the next step. Now, based on the plan that you picked, you are then, I am on F2 right now. I am now in the full plan presentation. This is where you're looking at the summary of benefits. You're going through the monthly premium. If there is a monthly premium, very important, if there is a monthly premium that is being subsidized, you still have to say, Mrs. Jones, this plan actually has a premium of $4.52. The good news is because you have a low income subsidy, that premium is going to be paid for you. But you still have to say what's in the summary of benefits. If the medical deductible is applicable, you have to say that. You have to do the PCP copay, the specialist copay. All of these bullets you need to hit, the max out of pocket, and then you're going to go to the next step. Now, we've completed the overview of the plan available to you. Do you have any questions, or would you like to review any other benefits before you decide to enroll? Answer any questions they might have at that point. And then, Nick, I got to lean on you one more time because I know you word this a little differently. I am in section G2 right now.
Yes. So after I go over, we have now completed the overview of the WellCare plans available to you. Do you have any questions, or would you like me to review any of the benefits before you decide to enroll? At that point in time, they're going to ask any question that they have. And then I just, I kind of assume the sale at that point. and skip to, at this point, I have all the information that I need to begin the enrollment process. Now, during the enrollment process, so I don't really go through G2. I don't need to ask them again if they're looking to enroll. By that time, I know, and I just go to G3.
Okay, so at this point, I have all the information I need to begin the enrollment process. Mrs. Jones, during the enrollment process, some of the information that I'm going to review with you may be similar to what we've already discussed. I want to make sure I captured all of your information correctly, so your enrollment into WellCare is completely accurate to make sure that you don't have any disruptions in coverage. That part has to be right. That's not one of the parts that you can skip by. Now, most of the time, this is an outbound call, not an inbound call. There are times that people will call you back, but for the most part, everything you've done up until this point was done on an outbound call. So Mrs. Jones, Medicare requires that enrollments be completed on an incoming call only, and I called you today. Don't say, would you mind calling me back? Instead, say, what I need you to do is give me a call back so we can complete the enrollment. Please call me at Diversified Health. You're going to give our 800 phone number. You're going to give your name and extension and tell them I'll be waiting for your call. This time you have a little bit of conversation about if they need to go use the restroom or whatever it might be. It does happen to most people where at this point they want a break, but that's fine. It's usually 5 minutes. Then they give you a call back. And then we move into the inbound script, of which we are not going to move into today because it's just a little too overwhelming. The other things that are on this script are things like a person who refused recordings or not interested or not qualified. This is what I mean about there's a bunch of the script that it's a little scary when you first look at it, but it's not as, you're not using everything that's in there. So with that, I want to stop there, and I want to open up the floor to questions, because there's got to be some questions.
I have a couple questions here in the chat. One was, can you say Medicare Part D provider instead of, WellCare or Centene?
Where
in the beginning, when I think specifically when it was about the lead itself, or the Part D part, can you basically just state, your Medicare Part D provider? I think the response is yes, you can, but you're losing the warmth that you're presenting within the lead. So by not stating like WellCare, your Part D provider asked me to give you a call, you're leaving out the benefit of why these are such a warm lead. By not including that portion into your presentation. Instead of, if you just say Medicare Part D provider, you're basically not, you're no different than the other person that's calling. So
Right.
Medicare, WellCare, your Part D provider asked me to give you a call to find out about the benefits that you might be entitled to.
Yeah, you guys have to take into account that people are receiving several calls like ours all day long, especially during the AEP time. They're going to be receiving so many calls. So how do you set yourself apart from the others that are calling them? You are specifically calling them from their Medicare Part D plan. We are already familiar. We are already we have your information. This is not a telemarketing call. We're calling to check on you. We're calling to make sure you have all the benefits that you're entitled to with your current plan. So WellCare, if you're calling a WellCare PDP lead, there is no harm in mentioning that. Okay, it's going to help you. The script is set up on purpose to do that, and it works. So there's no need to change that.
Hey guys, TJ here. Quick question. Section D5. Anthony, you had mentioned that we obviously know that they have a prescription drug plan. Do we need to let them know that they will be automatically disenrolled if they switch?
Yes, you are supposed to tell them that. Now, I'm trying to remember on the disclaimer part of the enrollment script. Nick, doesn't that come up in the actual disclaimer part of the enrollment?
I usually mention that during the enrollment.
Okay. Is it part of the script, or everybody would know to do that?
Yes, it is, Anthony.
Okay. Excellent. So there you go, TJ. It's a great question. We're covering it legally on the disclaimer portion.
Got it. And that's that follow-up call, correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
That's the actual enrollment call itself.
Cool. Thank you.
You got it. Mike, did you say that there's a few questions in the chat?
No, the other one's okay. It's from Rick, and this one makes a lot of sense. In the past, the physician lookup was a nightmare,
Yep.
but the physician lookup is way better now, and we've improved that part of it, or Centene has improved that part of it.
So Rick, let me tell you this. Specifically, you and David, I think this is relevant for. Actually, and possibly Dave Chittenden too. The WellCare, as you guys know it, this is a different company. They have turned around into it. I'm not telling you there's not going to be errors and mistakes. There is with all companies, especially with this big integration that's happening. But this is a completely different company than what you're accustomed to. From a service perspective, from a technology perspective, from an everything, it is a completely different company. They have invested substantially so that, like Mike said, they can be the #3 company. So very, very legitimate question. We still recommend always, when looking up these doctors, to use every resource possible, because there's still times that in the doctor lookup, you can't find a doctor, but yet when you call WellCare, they tell you the doctor is in network, or the other way around, or we still recommend using every resource possible. But you will be pleasantly surprised on how much better it is. Okay. What other questions do we have?
Anthony, how long does a normal call take?
Great question. So your initial call is going to take probably in the neighborhood of about 40 minutes or so on the initial call. Nick, do you agree with that? Or Akram?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. That's your initial call. When they call you back, Rick, the first time you do an enrollment, it's going to take you about 30 to 35 minutes. The very first one you do. The second one you do, you're immediately going to knock 10 minutes off. It's incredible how it works, because you realize it's so overwhelming the first time you're doing it, but you just get so much better at it so quicker. And then by the time you do 3 or 4 of them, the average enrollment is going to take between 17 and 23 minutes on the inbound call portion of it. So plan about an hour and 15 minutes, and you should be a little less. From start to finish, plan about an hour and 15 minutes. What other questions do we have on the script? Nothing. You guys are easy. Either put you to sleep, or you guys are just so ready to sell that this is super easy.
Do you guys have an editable version of this where we could possibly make notes on? I guess technically I could just print it out, right? But I'm wondering if maybe there's a Word document that I could make some.
So actually, I believe on the website that is a Word document. And if you download that, let me just see if it opens it. Let me check if we have the Word document. I think Hey, Mike, on the website, it actually says Microsoft Word.
Yeah,
Revised
you can edit it, and we can give you access to that if necessary. One of the things too that I talked a little bit about, the new system. The new system will actually be able to direct you through this script a lot easier based on your answers and the way that you're talking. It'll actually populate what the next step is. So it's going to be there's obviously a learning curve that needs to be done, but as you're on our new system, it'll actually simplify this process by directing you to, okay, you said yes, in D9, therefore, state this, or you said no in D9. So now we go to step E, and it's going to actually be able to kind of direct you through the process much, much easier and have all of this pre-populated in the system. That's part of what the benefit is going to be from the new phone opportunity.
Okay.
Is that the Ascend system you're referring to, or is that something different?
That's a diversified in-house process that we're working on.
The Ascend system, Rick, is the WellCare enrollment system. Actually, that just opened up a great question. You may be seeing different things on Ascend that are going out to all agents. So the Ascend is an enrollment platform for both teledigital agents as well as field agents. As a field agent, you have the opportunity to use Ascend to actually take an application, whether it's on an iPad or whatever it might be, to take an application over the phone with the person calling into a number that makes your iPad ring, and it records it for you. The downside to it is you're talking about having to get in advance a scope of appointment. That's a big deal. That's a whole nother step that you're talking about adding into it. On the teledigital side, you're using Ascend, but you're using Ascend as a teledigital agent, of which the other thousands and thousands of agents out there don't have access to that portion of it, where you're actually putting the enrollment directly into CMS, not putting an enrollment into WellCare. Does that make sense?
Could you go over it just again, please?
Okay. So the Ascend app is Centene's enrollment system for agents. Okay. You have the opportunity to either be a field agent or be a teledigital agent. The field agent can use the Ascend app to do a DocuSign situation, could use the Ascend app that if they were sitting across the table from them, be putting information in and have the person sign on the iPad. Can also use the Ascend app to get a scope of appointment, or even to take a telephonic enrollment where the person calls into the iPad for you. But again, it had to be someone that you had a scope of appointment and whatnot for. So there's a lot of flexibility of what a field agent could do, but there's more steps of what that field agent must do in order to use the Ascend app. The teledigital agent doesn't have to get a scope of appointment, follows this script, and just takes the enrollment and puts it in. The person's not calling into an iPad or anything like that. The person is on the phone with the office line, which is doing the recording. It gives us a way to manage. It gives us more flexibility. It gives us more control. It makes it that if a person does have to end the call in the middle of it and is going to talk to you again in an hour, it's okay that we have 2 different recordings there, or 3 or 4, or sometimes 6 recordings for a sale. That's the flexibility that we have on the teledigital side. You don't have that as a field agent. Is that a little bit of a better explanation? A little confusing, but is it a little better of an explanation?
No, I think so. Effectively, as a teledigital agent, the scope is included in the process that you have.
That is correct. As well as we control the way it went through. When you do, okay, here's a I'm going to step back to compliance for a second. If you have, as a field agent, when you have a complaint from any carrier, the carrier comes back and says, Mrs. Jones said you didn't tell her about X, Y, and Z. And then here is a 9-page document asking you every question about how your presentation goes. And what do you remember here? And what happened there? And you feel like you're under such scrutiny when you didn't do anything wrong. But yet you have to choose how you answer these questions to make sure, so on and so forth. On the teledigital side, if there's a complaint, they have one question. How long will it be before you can give us the recordings? Most of the time, an agent doesn't even know when there's a complaint against them, because a person says, I was enrolled and did not authorize that person to enroll me in it. Well, they listen to the recording that says, do you agree? Yes, I agree. And the complaint goes away and it's unfounded. Whereas when it's the other side, there's a lot of he said, she said stuff going on. So there's a lot of protection on the teledigital side, as long as you actually are being compliant, obviously. There's a lot of protection there. On the Ascend app side, that's not the case. That's not the case. You don't have that protection the same way.
So I understand that a case is either a teledigital case or a field agent case, but does an agent have to be one or the other? Can you do some each way?
No, an agent must be one or the other. They must be a teledigital or they must be a field agent. Now, if you have a field agent who, for the most part, is going to be selling face-to-face or possibly emailing applications or whatever it is, but every once in a while they're going to take an app over the phone, then they can do that through the Ascend app as a field agent. But they have to have that scope of appointment first in order to do that, and they have to have the person call into the Ascend app. But the agent itself, it must be one or the other. The setup on the teledigital agent, everything is set up different. Everything is on us from a compliance perspective to a payment. We have to pay the agents on if they're strictly teledigital, we have to pay them. It's basically WellCare's taken everything and shifted it over and said, you are a WellCare call center, run your own business. So that's why they must be one or the other as far as the agent goes. Good question, Dave. Any other questions on where we're at with the scripting? Okay. Nick, what, for the purposes of leaving it off till tomorrow for the inbound part, is there any other things that you could think of that we need to hit or that I missed?
Just a few things here that I want to mention. I know we're all in sales. We all know how to sell, but I often come across times where I give a few pointers and it serves as reminders, okay, to us when doing sales. Not that you don't know what to do, but we often have to be reminded of some certain things. So going back to the script that we just went over, the sales script. The sales script is specifically set up to allow you to make a friend. It allows you to be yourself. It allows you to create a conversation and build trust. Okay. It also allows you to build a need. Okay. If you have not created a need, there is literally and figuratively no need to call SPOP, okay? Think of SPOP or whatever you're going to use in the Ascend app. Think of that as your takeaway. So if you have not created enough need, there is no need to call SPOP, okay? Another thing that I just want to remind you of, you are the expert. Take control of the conversation. Grab that opportunity to educate our clients, okay? That's what sets us apart from any other company that's calling them. Yes, we are all in sales, okay? But you are not the typical sales agent. You are a senior advocate, okay? You're going to educate them on the benefits that they're missing out on. You're going to answer the questions that they need to be answered, okay? You're going to be able to tell them information that no other agent has been able to tell them. Most agents, they sign clients up, and that's the last time you hear from them. Our representatives, our senior advocates, what we do, we take it a little bit further, okay? Even after you sign someone up, they're going to have access to you as the person to go to do all the footwork on their plan, okay? There's going to be clients that you know by name and that you're very familiar with. Okay. If they need someone to call WellCare on their behalf, you're going to be that person that they're going to feel comfortable calling back, not waiting on hold with WellCare, and just, having you do the footwork, having you answer questions on their over-the-counter benefits, etc. Okay. So that's what sets us apart, diversified representatives, from any other telemarketer or sales agent that's calling them. We are here to positively impact lives. That's what we do. Whether you get a sale or not, you probably educated them on some benefits that they knew nothing about, okay? But always end the call knowing that you positively impacted someone's life, okay? Because it can lead to referrals down the line. It can lead to that person calling you back like, hey, you were telling me about this plan before. Can you tell me more? I think I'm interested now. Okay, so you never know who you're going to have as a client because of that. Also, the call is not over. The call is not over at not interested. Okay, it does not stop there. I like to just ask them, well, what exactly aren't you interested in? And that goes back to being the expert, knowing the right questions to ask. What aren't you interested in? Because most people are just saying they're not interested just to get you off the phone. Again, you are not a telemarketer. I'm calling on behalf of WellCare, your current Medicare Part D prescription provider. Okay. Another pointer that I want to give you guys, know the format of the MBI number. Okay. It goes along with mastering your craft. If someone gives you one digit or one letter short, you already know because you know the format. Okay, so master your craft, learn as you go. The call is not over if the doctor is not in the network. Again, like Anthony said, we have PPO plans in certain areas. Okay, if you created a strong need, there are some people that have no problem changing a doctor. Okay, so it doesn't end at doctor not in network. Another thing that I want to mention and that I mention to everyone that I train, a dentist or an eye doctor should not kill the deal, okay? It should not be a disposition that, oh, their dentist wasn't in network or their eye doctor wasn't in network. What dental benefits are they getting now that's better than what you can offer them? Most of it is preventative, but are they getting $1,000 in dental that include dentures? I highly doubt it. Okay, so use it to your advantage and always have someone lined up in their area that they can go to that you can recommend. Okay, that's highly reputable with WellCare, that takes the WellCare benefits, and be ready to give them people in their area. Okay. If someone hangs up on you, you always want to call them right back. Assume that there's a misunderstanding. Maybe they thought you were a telemarketer, and you can open up the call that way. I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, I'm not a telemarketer. Again, I'm calling on behalf of WellCare, your Part D prescription plan provider. Okay? Just put yourself in their shoes. They're receiving a lot of calls, but you have to set yourself apart from those calls. We already have a relationship. Okay? No dead airspace. Dead airspace always creates an objection. All right? Again, it's a reminder. These are things that you know, sales 101, but sometimes we need a reminder. Be confident in what you're saying. Be a resource, not a salesman. Right? And I'll end it with, certain people, they get so many objections throughout the day and they're like, oh, this is a bad day. We don't have bad days in telesales. We have character building days. What did you learn from the day? Did you learn how to rebuttal to certain objections? Did you line something up for AEP? And I'll end there.
So that's good stuff, Nick. Thank you. Thank you. That's real good stuff. I want to, because we have a few minutes now, I want to go just back to, can you guys see the screen? It says tips from the most successful agents.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm jumping ahead to this was going to be for tomorrow, but I'd rather hit this now, just while we have a few minutes. So we went and kind of asked our agents on our conference call, look, if you were a brand new telesales person, what do you wish that someone absolutely positively said to you, which is all along the same lines of what Nicole was just going over. But what do you wish, what was the one pointer, if you will, that you wish that somebody would have given you? And the list went on and on and on to a point where I'm like, okay, guys, I got enough, thanks, you know. And we kind of narrowed it down to the things that we heard the most. So we want to kind of share this with you as the little pointers that if you know it now, instead of hearing about it a month from now, you'd say, man, I possibly could have had a bunch more sales. The first one is probably the most important. Well, I won't prioritize it, but I think it's one of the most important ones. This is something we call the double tap, okay? If you were getting a phone call from a number that you did not recognize and you didn't answer it, and after the phone stopped ringing, the phone rang again with that number, what would the thought be in your mind about that?
This person really wants to speak with me.
Something might be wrong. There's an emergency. Somebody really needs to talk to me. The pickup rate when you do a double tap is substantially higher. You can't believe how many people will answer the phone the second time you call back, as long as you do it within a few seconds. I'm not talking about waiting a minute or 2 minutes or anything like that, because then it's like, oh, it's just a telemarketer. It's just that, you know, their dialer system just called back again. But to hang up and call back immediately, it's, who is this person? Somebody needs me. I need to get this. I mean, we've all had situations where we didn't answer the phone the first time it came in, and the second time it came in, we did. And it works, guys. You get people to answer the phone. It gives a sense of urgency. We are going to give you a list tomorrow. And again, this is all based on, this is all prior to us getting a new phone system, of which we're trying to get put in place for AEP. But we're going to give you a list of local phone numbers that you could hit pounds, you hit 2-digit number, and then you dial the number, and then it's going to be a local number that rings on that person's phone. Answer rates are substantially higher when you're calling from a local number. Make sure you ask who else in the house is on Medicare. There's no reason for you not to get 2 sales out of the same house, or 3 sales, or however many it might be out of the same house. It works, but if you don't ask, then you don't know. So make sure you ask the questions. You can't find out who else is in the house, be at the end of enrollment, and somebody says, you know, I'd like to enroll my husband in this too. Can we do that? And then just do an enrollment. At that point, you're going to have to do a whole new presentation again. So find out in the beginning who else is there, who are we talking about, who's relevant. Ask the questions. Or it could be that the wife says, it's not for me. I have group coverage right now that's being paid for, but my husband does it. So you got to make sure you find out who else is there. This is probably the most important one. That's why I paused when I was talking about number one. It is a numbers game. The more you dial, the more sales you have. I don't care how we slice it. I don't care who's a better salesperson over another. At the end of the day, whoever makes the phone calls has the most amount of sales. I could show you reports over and over again that when you look at the names, you'll say, how did this person have more sales than the other person? There's no way they're as good. And then you look at the number of calls they made, and that's the reason why they had more sales. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game. We realize we're giving you a lot of information between today and tomorrow, and it's overwhelming, but remember, you know more than they do, and you have to be able to show that confidence that you have because you do know more than they do. Messages. All these years, we've always been kind of against leaving messages. We want to call them 32 times, not leave them a message because we want them to be curious. What we've learned is that the messages are working. There's a lot of agents that are leaving a message the first time that they call. That just say, Mrs. Jones, this is Anthony Rose calling on behalf of WellCare, your current Part D prescription provider, giving you a call because we've learned that there are some additional benefits you may be entitled to that you're not taking advantage. Some agents will go into dental, vision, hearing. Others will just leave it at some additional benefits. But they're getting callbacks. So believe it or not, it is worthwhile leaving a message. I explained earlier staying with the times and discussing the current climate, discussing COVID, talk about what's going on. That's all part of being able to make a friend. I also spoke a little earlier about making sure you ask good questions. The quality of questions will determine how good you are. Nicole just kind of went over this. Make sure you know what you're dealing with so that you never get to that part of making the presentation before knowing exactly who you're talking to and what's important to them. And the last thing, and we'll go over this tomorrow, is participate in our conference calls. We have conference calls every Tuesday and Thursday evening from 6:30 to 7:30. And 7:30 is the latest. It's usually 45, 50 minutes. We have a bunch of salespeople on the call. They talk about what's been going on. They talk about objections. Others share the rebuttals and share what's working with them. We also talk about news. There's always something different to talk about. For example, tomorrow night's conference call will be focused on the Ohio and Pennsylvania product. There's actually going to be a presentation on Ohio and Pennsylvania product for tomorrow night, of which everyone who's going to be Tele Digital should probably be on that because there is an abundance of leads in the state of Pennsylvania. But participating in the calls to take 2 hours a week out, you only have to learn one thing on each call. And if you could learn 2 new things every single week, it's going to be worthwhile for you. Those are kind of the top things as far as the tips from the most successful agents. Before I wrap it there, I want to throw it out there to any questions to you guys. Mike, Nicole, Akram, Jeff, do you guys have anything that you want to throw in there? I'll open up the floor. Nothing?
I think you got it all.
Okay. Akram,
yeah, I like even. Yeah, I'm really good. I like the tips that also Nicole gave, and I like the energy from Nicole today. Like you said, it's like sounds really good for Monday.
Yeah, great weekend.
So yeah, between you and her, you guys did a very good job.
Mike? Okay. So with that said, does anybody have any questions at all that they want to hit? This is the time for it. Okay, then with that said, tomorrow, same number, same place, 3 p.m. Eastern time. We will continue down the inbound script path and start to get into some of the logistics of the system itself. I think Jeanette will be on the call to kind of go through the Ascend app a little bit. and get you where you need to be. So if that's it, if nobody has any questions, then we will speak to you all tomorrow at 3 o'clock. One other thing, tonight, or actually in an hour, at 4 o'clock Eastern time, we are trying to do a rollout for the South Central region. The South Central region consists of Tennessee, Missouri, Kansas, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana. We're still trying to make sure we have representation from all of those states on it, but we're planning that is probably going to be about an hour and a half, but we're looking to roll through all of those states. It is the same call number as this training school, same password, same everything. And that is at 4 o'clock Eastern time today. And that's what I got for you. So with that said, everybody have a great night. Look forward to possibly hearing from some of you on tonight's call. And otherwise, speak to everybody at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Have a great night.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.